representatives of trade and business, colleagues and friends. Good morning to all of you. It's indeed a great privilege for me to address you today at this Trade and Weekly Business Breakfast in collaboration with the JCCI. Engagement with business and stakeholders is a critically important element of our strategy in customs and excise. And in particular, as it becomes more and more important with the growth that we see in international trade and the ever-changing business and environmental landscape that we face today. Fundamentally, customs hasn't changed in all these years, in these 7,000 odd years. The principles of customs have remained the same. And even to the extent that the balance between trade facilitation and revenue, or the promotion of trade, existed all those years ago. In ancient times, the king would decide he wants to levy the customs duty if you want to come through his land, if you want to bring goods in or out of his territory. And they could set the king could set the duty at any level. He could set it as high as he wanted. Because there was no legislator, it wasn't legislated. That's where customs duty comes from. It was customary. They just decided we want to raise money for our kingdom. But at the same time, they wouldn't raise it so high that you as a trader would say, look, I'm not going to go through your kingdom, I'm going to divert to the next kingdom. So that whole balance around, getting the balance around increasing tariffs and promoting trade existed all those years ago. The concept of penalties obviously existed all those years ago. I'm sure many of you in the audience probably complain a lot about the penalties that get issued by customs in the modern era. In the olden days, in the ancient times, it was, if you were caught, it was concealment, or you didn't pay the correct amount. You were either stoned or you were sentenced to death. So just to put it, in fact, sometimes. So we are a little bit lenient now, more lenient nowadays. But I think that it's interesting that in some countries, still today, the customs holds the death penalty. In China, for example, there's a couple of clients or traders that are standing on death row waiting to be executed. So we have it a little bit easier in South Africa. So next, as I said, just to touch on the mandate of customs. So what is it that customs, what is our mandate? What do we need to do? And this is an interesting one that we've kind of unpacked a little bit and re-looked at again internally to say, what is it that we're meant to do? Because I think over time we may have lost sight a little bit of what we really are supposed to be doing. If you go ask people, what does customs do? They'll say, we collect duties, we protect the local industry, we facilitate trade. But the reality is our primary mandate is to, and we'll read it there, it's on the slide. We're the first line of control over the movement of all goods that come across the country's borders. So anything that comes in or goes out of the country, we are the first line of control. So the important point is we need to control the movements of all goods that come in and out of the country. And again, are we doing that sufficiently? Do we have full control and full sight of everything that comes in and goes out? Because if you don't know what's coming in, you cannot manage it. That's the reality. And then if we are effective in executing our mandate, we then, by default, we protect society and the economy. We support economic competitiveness. And we collect duty, we collect all the duties and the revenue that is due. So by controlling the movement of the goods, the secondary objective is the one of protection of the local industry, protection of society and the economy, support economic competitiveness. So by facilitating legitimate trade and clamping down on illicit trade, we then support competitiveness. So our mandate is not to facilitate trade, but by executing our mandate effectively, indirectly we facilitate trade. So that's quite an important point to keep in mind. So, as we've mentioned now, the mandate of customs, as I said already, has not changed. So that mandate of controlling the goods that move into and out of your territory existed in ancient times. That hasn't changed. What has changed from those ancient times to today is a lot. I mean, the trade landscape and the environment that we live in today has changed dramatically in all those years, and is constantly changing and evolving on a daily basis. So we've got a substantial increase in the trade volumes. I mean, the trade volumes are still growing between 3 and 4%. Andy, I think, was the SAF Marine research that was done, or survey that was done earlier this year. We've seen an increase in the complexity, the number of free trade agreements and regional agreements that are, proliferation of bilateral and multilateral agreements that we're dealing with. So the complexity, the environment is getting more and more complex on a daily basis. We have the World Trade Organization Trade Facilitation Agreement that we have to accede to now. So Brexit, as an example. Brexit will have an impact on South Africa. What the extent of the impact is not fully known yet. I mean, the UK is, I think, our 6th or 7th largest trading partner on imports and exports. That will have an impact if they fall out of the EU from a free trade agreement between SACU and the European Union. This will have an impact on the trade in South Africa. And what will that impact be? Secondly, there's a proliferation of new business models. The way of doing business has changed dramatically. We've all seen companies like Uber, Airbnb, 3D printing. 3D printing will change the dynamic of customs going forward. There won't be a need to import parts and equipment going forward. You'll simply be able to download the design off the internet and print the part or print the tool that you require, as an example. How does that impact on the duties that are collected, and how will that impact us going forward? We need to analyze and we need to understand. The increase in express shipments, the e-commerce, there's an explosion of e-commerce, and this changes the dynamic of customs. Fewer consignments of big quantities in containers. We now have to deal with millions and millions of individual parcels, and how does that affect our operating model, and how do we respond to those challenges? Then, as we've noted across the world, the increase in terrorism and organized crime is really threatening the fabric of our society as international trade and travel. And how do we respond to that? How can we collaborate with trade to work together to root out these threats, etc. So what we're saying here is that the mandate is pretty simple, but what makes it difficult or makes it challenging is that we're in an environment that's changing constantly and is becoming more and more complex. So this is something that we at Customs, we analyze these factors, these external factors, on virtually a daily basis. We analyze these factors and we try to anticipate what the trends are, how will this impact us, how will this impact on our revenue collection, most importantly. And we'd be very interested if, I'm pretty sure many of you do these kind of external environmental scans on a daily basis or regularly within your own environment and your own businesses. And we'd love to engage with you on some of these matters. If you see things and send an email through and say, are you aware of this? What do you think the impact will be? Or we need to meet to discuss these kind of factors. So it's very important that we work together to address these challenges.